In every setting, the things we do and want to do are influenced by our core values. Wherever there are people gathered together for any purpose, culture will be created, and your culture will either be encouraging and productive or toxic and dysfunctional. We must learn to build a culture that aligns with our people's core values. In an article of that same name by Natalie Baumgartner, she stresses that people are looking for workplaces where they can intertwine their beliefs with the organization and work together for a common vision and purpose. We would argue that this is true of any group of people who work together or partner or minister together. It's especially true of a Christian ministry that is expecting people to work together for the specific call of service that they wish to adopt as the body of Christ. The culture we create must be aligned with the shared core values of our people that we're working together with. In the marketplace, 65% of employees would rather work for lower pay, take a lower paying job than participate in a toxic work environment. They value a place where they're free to be their true selves while having a positive impact on society as they collaborate with others. People want to know they're making a difference, the kind of difference that matters. And for Christians, we would hope to make a difference that would, put a smile on God's face. It is true that there is great variety of culture, great variety in every workplace, every group, every ministry, and every single team where people come together to serve together. Successful cultures will share 4 things in common. 1 is shared core values, empowering people to be engaged in what they're passionate about, a feeling of being valued for their contribution, and people are genuinely heard. They feel genuinely heard and appreciated. We would argue that leadership should be defined as influence. And since every person exerts influence, every person is also a leader. Therefore, it will be your responsibility as a Christian coach to exert the kind of influence that helps you and your client create an effective culture. In the upcoming 4th and final course in this program, we will be spending a lot more time on the subject of leadership. After all, effective leaders articulate values and live by them. In an article by that same name, written by Morella Hernandez and Catherine Summers, the authors stress that core values lie at the heart of effective leadership. They suggest that current teaching on values is unclear. People are unsure about what a value even is, let alone know how to structure a culture around shared values. We've noticed that many churches post a set of core values on their website, and clearly they've attempted to define what they value most as a church. But then they often fail to do anything about it. Their culture isn't really driven by their core values. And when that happens, it becomes just platitudes that don't really have anything to do with what they actually do. It's the same for any person who works with others in every setting. The tendency is to develop pithy statements that serve as platitudes that are called core values, but they don't really drive the actions forward as an organization. Our core values assessment should help you change that. In this course, you will use our proprietary core values assessment tool first on yourself and learn how to include it in your coaching practice. Our assessment identifies 40 possible core values, all presented from a biblical Christian worldview. But know this, there are many other possible values that a person might have. Some of them will be biblical and godly. Others will be non-biblical and ungodly. Though it is not possible to create an assessment that includes every possible human core value, we've chosen the 40 that we believe are important to consider in a Christian perspective. As many experts suggest as important, our core values assessment will help people understand personal moral codes and what it means to have certain standards and ideals. In short, to understand why we do the things we do. In an article called Effective Leaders Articulate Values, the authors provide 3 practical steps for leaders to articulate those values. First is to set aside time for introspection. In chaplaincy and in Christian coaching, we call that self-awareness. We believe this is an important and crucial step in our own spiritual disciplines and progressive sanctification. We simply cannot make any progress toward any vision, especially one that helps us become the person God created us to be, unless we are aware of who and what we are now. We cannot change what we do not recognize needs to be changed. Second is to recognize the good values you actually have control over. Your actual core values, those are the ones you are most passionate about. They are the ones you have the most control over. Others, such as aspiring core values, may be important, but you don't actually do them. You may even find some very low-scoring values that you might believe God would want you to develop. Essentially, you will naturally do the things that you do out of your actual core values, but you can exert some limited control over developing others that you believe are important, but these will take work and self-control. Third is list your actual core values and consider how much time you spend every week doing the things associated with them. Our assessment will help you do just that. You'll find a very helpful document in Section 2 of this course called What I Do and What We Might Do Together. This provides examples of what a person with a particular core value might be found doing, but it also provides examples of activities that a group of people might do together if they all shared that same core value. Because core values matter, you will need to get your team or your group excited about what is shared among them. Brent Gleason, writing for Forbes Leadership, who brings a unique perspective to leadership from the view of a Navy SEAL, he is passionate about something called performance management. He describes core values as this, quote, "the guiding light that bonds a team with a shared sense of purpose for achieving common goals," end quote. I would point out that without shared values, the goals will not be shared in common. Goals are always determined by what we most want to do, and what we do is rooted in our core values. Therefore, unless we share core values in common, we will not have goals in common either. So you must be able to identify your core values. They must be clear, specific, and also resonate with your team or your small group. They will become the foundation upon which you determine what you will accomplish together as a team. Therefore, your core values must mesh with your team and what you believe the most as important. Now, the author suggests that your core values need to authentically define how you and your team members operate and behave and interact with each other on a day-to-day basis. In a word, we call this culture. The culture you create will be born of your core values, but only if it's communicated clearly and shared passionately. I love the quote by Elvis Presley, who said, "Values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them all over everything you do." Such a true statement. Your core values describe the reason why you do the things you do, and so also for your team. As the coach, you will want to influence the buy-in on shared core values and the goals that people will want to accomplish together according to those shared values. And you do this by creating a culture that is built on the foundation of those core values. This starts with you and the culture that you create with the people that you coach and that you work with. The art of Christian discipleship, after all, is duplication. Jesus makes this clear in Luke 6:40, saying, "A disciple or student is not above his teacher, but when fully trained will be like his teacher." As you learn to create a culture built on shared values, you should become more capable of helping others do the same. Coaching is mentoring, and leadership is influence. As you mentor others, influence them, and disciple believers, The result should be for others to make progress. As Christian coaches, we ask ourselves, am I making sufficient progress so that if my client became a little more like me, would that be a good thing in God's eyes? Finally, don't overlook your client's talent and their abilities. Effective leaders put talented people on their team who also share their core values. Know that it is better to have a person who does not have as much talent or ability than to have a highly talented person who does not share your core values. If they're not aligned with the things you want to do, the culture you create will just not turn out well for you. It will cost you time, energy, emotion, and resources and lead to failure. If you want to have more joy and more productivity in your life and your relationships, make core values a priority. Coaching with core values will help you make this a priority for yourself, your team, and your clients. In the words of Brent Gleason, don't let the values be an afterthought.